Good morning, my friends. Today is part 10 of our series on everyday immortality. I'm going to take a slight break to invite you to a very special event that's happening this weekend. And this weekend, we are doing the Chopra Center and Chopra Global and the site Chopra Health or Whole Health. You'll see all the details in the URL before. This weekend, we are launching, along with approximately 20 faculty, a weekend which we're calling a digital retreat for self-care. Once again, I'm inviting you to join me this weekend, along with approximately 20 other experts in the field of mind, body, spirit, health, healing, for a digital retreat. It'll start Friday evening and will go on till 12 noon Sunday. And all the details are being posted here, so please join me. Once again, a digital weekend retreat offered to you by Chopra Global and the Center, Chopra Center. Details all here. Digital weekend retreat on self-care and healing. Self-care and healing. So there'll be lots of experts in these areas: mind, body, spirit, health, career, every aspect of total well-being, and how you can participate in your own self-care. If you have any ideas, by the way, on healthcare, your own self-care, then please post here as well and send us your ideas about what you do for self-care. I was asked to mention by our staff what I do for self-care, and to be very honest, I do nothing. I do less and accomplish more, and my goal is to do nothing and accomplish everything, which is the nature of being or higher consciousness. Having said that, in the beginning, you need to learn lots of steps on self-care and get some idea on the connection between the spirit, the soul, the conditioned mind, the ego, the intellect, the subtle body, the physical body, and the experience of the world. Because in the deeper reality, the self is modifying itself as all experience. So what we call the mind is a modified expression of the self. What we call emotions are modified expressions of the self. What we call ego is modified expressions of the self. What we call the physical body is a modified expression of the self, modified experience of the self. Who experiences the body? The self. Who experiences the mind? The self. Who experiences or what experiences emotions, relationships, professional interactions, career? The self. Who experiences financial worries? The self. Who experiences financial security? The self. Every experience you have is the self, modifying itself as that experience. Once you get that, then you realize that knowing the true self is the key to well-being, to self-care. Take care of the self. And the self is not your mind. The self is not your ego. The self is not your intellect. The self is not your body. The self is not your experiences of the world. The self is pure consciousness. And once you identify with pure consciousness and you make that your anchor of all experience, then self-care happens by itself. Okay, it's called spontaneous right action, spontaneous right thinking, spontaneous right choice making, spontaneous intuition, spontaneous creativity, spontaneous higher vision, spontaneous higher consciousness, spontaneous higher imagination, and ultimately spontaneous well-being. Do less, accomplish more, ultimately do nothing and accomplish everything. Having said that, again, we will offer in this two-day experience through the digital seminar the steps to get to that place. So, what we are calling self-care normally refers to all the things we do in waking state of consciousness. So in waking state of consciousness, every day we go through experiences like eating, breathing, digestion, which is also happening in sleeping and dreaming, but we go through these experiences every day. Waking, dreaming, sleeping, digestion, metabolism, elimination, sensory experience of sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, personal interactions, social interactions, career, community, finances, all of that is part of well-being. How can it not be? If you're concerned right now about the COVID-19, just the concern of the COVID-19, you will realize that in itself creates stress, and that in itself damages the capacity of the immune system to respond to challenges. That in itself creates inflammation. That in itself compromises you in your risk for disease. So, we can think of health and well-being in so many dimensions. First, as the absence of disease. That's one definition of health. Second definition of health is a state of physical, mental, spiritual, community well-being, which includes personal relationships, social interactions, finances, career, etc. So that's a second way to think of health, not just the absence of disease, but a state of physical, mental, environmental, social, spiritual well-being. But there's a third way of thinking about health and healing, the return of the memory of wholeness, to find out who you really are before you modify yourself into the experience of mind, emotions, body, intellect, on and on. So ultimately, the self is not only the source of all experience, it's the enjoyer and the sufferer of all experience. It's the interpreter of all experience. It's really ultimately, if you're conscious, the chooser of all experience, and ultimately experiences the fruit of all experience, whether that's joy or fulfillment or suffering or anger or grievances or resentments or love or compassion or joy or equanimity or peace. But ultimate healing is the loss of all existential anxiety, ultimate healing, the understanding of the sources of human suffering, and the conquest of the fear of death. When you do that, you're holy and you're healed, totally. And that is health as higher consciousness. Now, of course, in the Vedanta, in our teachings of the Yoga Vasishtha, in our teachings of the 8 limbs of yoga, in our teachings of primordial sound meditation, when I say our teachings, I mean the tradition of Ayurveda and Vedanta, from where all this knowledge comes, then health is going beyond experiences in waking, dreaming, and sleeping. It's ultimately tapping into the source, which is pure consciousness, which is called transcendent consciousness or transcendental consciousness, and then going beyond that into an identity which is local and non-local at the same time, which is referred to as cosmic consciousness, where you start to identify with the source, understanding that all experiences are modified forms of the source, and by anchoring yourself in the source, you can modify and choose the experiences to create a life of healing, fulfillment, joy, equanimity, and absence of total fear. So right now people are fearing, of course, COVID-19 and the epidemic. It's obvious. This is causing worldwide existential anxiety, suffering, and the fear of death. So as we go through a deeper understanding of health, well-being, suffering, going beyond suffering, we can see that we can change our relationship to even COVID-19. Coronaviruses have been around for hundreds of thousands and millions of years, okay? The COVID-19 is just the latest mutation. So if you think we can get rid of viruses, you're already mistaken. Viruses are very important part of the enrichment of our microbiome, and microbiome is most of the genetic information in your body. And unless you make peace with your microbiome and the diversity of the microbiome and the health of the microbiome, which includes making peace with viruses and fungi and bacteria and genetic information that regulates our own biology, then any short-term conquest of a particular strain of a virus will be just that, short-term. Right now, the ecosystem is under stress. The biosphere is under stress, which is because of pollution, climate change, all kinds of things, temperature, population density, mass migrations, movements, weather patterns, international trade, international services. The complexity of experience in the biosphere is such that it is now under stress. And the biosphere and your biology are one wholeness of activity. They're not different at all. Your biology and the biosphere are ecosystems. Your biology is an ecosystem. Every cell in your body is an ecosystem. Every organelle in your body is an ecosystem. The mitochondria which produce energy in your body are actually made of RNA, which is the same as the genetic information that makes up viruses. In fact, we are descendants of viruses in the ecosystem of existence, which includes the biosphere, the microbiome inside, and our own biology. Our entire biology is an ecosystem, as is the biosphere, but so are the cells, so are the mitochondria, so are the organelles, so in fact is genetic information. So I've been talking in the last few videos about genetic information, basically, the divine code of life, which I've been mentioning, and I've been quoting some amazing scientists about talking about the divine code of life and how actually the divine code of life is genetic information, not only personal genetic information, but the genetic information of the entangled ecosystem, When we understand that, then health becomes a higher state of consciousness. Cosmic consciousness, ultimately divine consciousness, where we connect with each other at the level of being and soul and commune with each other in the interdependent inseparability of existence, then we spontaneously are taking care of the self. Because the self is the divine intelligence in you, the ultimate and supreme genius that mirrors the wisdom of the universe. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. As is the atom, so is the universe. As is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. As is the human body, so is the cosmic body. As the human mind, cosmic intellect, cosmic ego. But beyond that, cosmic consciousness. So divine consciousness, cosmic consciousness, unity consciousness are progressive stages of the expansion of consciousness when ultimately you're holy, when you're healed, and self-care becomes spontaneous. Whether that's deep rest, whether it's good sleep, whether it's conscious dreaming, whether it's conscious choice making, whether it's consciously eating the right food, whether it's consciously managing your relationships, your social interactions, your professional interactions, your finances, all of that ultimately should be spontaneous. In the beginning, of course, you need some guidance, and that's what we'll do in this digital seminar. So please join us. You'll have a lot of experts. I will be participating both in the end and in the beginning and in between. So I think I may have 4 sessions, and there'll be a lot of interaction, and hopefully there will also be some Q&A, and I'll be able to answer your questions. But we must not compromise. We must not compromise on what we mean by health and well-being. Health, holiness, wholeness, healing, the return of the memory of who we really are is the self. And everything else is a modified expression of that. And in this weekend, we'll learn how to navigate experience so we can consciously choose the experiences that lead us to spontaneous well-being, spontaneous well-care. Learning the steps, of course, in the beginning. That's also what it means to be meta-human. Go beyond the conditioned mind. It also means how to activate the divine code of life, our own genetic material. I've been talking all these days about genetic switches that go on and off ceaselessly in every cell of our body, and how these genetic switches in our body are related to the genetic switches in your body and everybody else's body. Our genetic switches are entangled, just like our emotions are entangled. Our thoughts are entangled. Our biosphere is entangled. So, as we move through this, during COVID and post-COVID, we improve our relationship with the ecosystem of existence. And when we do that, then these anomalies like a coronavirus gone out of control because of the stressed ecosystem and the microbiome, and the fact that actually corona is using your body right now to reproduce itself so it can fix the biosphere. It's already happening. We are at home right now. The biosphere is repairing itself. The air is cleaner, etc., etc. The waters are purer. The sky is blue. People can breathe. Fish are returning to their dead lakes, and even the canals of Venice, you can see fish, and people are breathing better. The birds are singing. Something is happening, and that's a reset of existence. Reset of existence, because existence is not just the human biosphere, it's the total biosphere. And existence is the interplay of the total biosphere. When we fall in alignment with the elements and forces of the universe, which is also called dharma, then automatically there is wholeness, holiness, and healing. Healing is a sacred experience. Sacred experience. And in order for us to totally understand that, we have to go beyond all human constructs and go to the source of human constructs and understand that when we change our constructs themselves, everything changes. The mind changes, the body changes, the world changes. Now we can give this a very good scientific underpinning, which I'll do. What is the connection of the spirit to the soul, to the mind, to the ego, to the intellect, to the body, the subtle body, the causal body, all those relationships, the choices we make, the environment, the world we see, all of it is conceived, constructed, governed, and comes into existence in the self. So self-care is ultimate care, but self-care is not just caring of this or that or this routine or that routine. It should be spontaneous. In order to do that, you need to learn the elements. Just like in order to speak, you need to learn the alphabet. It's as simple as that. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. This weekend, we do this silent retreat. Please join us. All the information is right here. I look forward to it. I, at this moment, don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but I'm going to make sure that everyone has their answers, has their questions answered, and there'll be many, many other people on our faculty who are experts in their area, and they'll be guiding you as well. So once again, join me for a continuation of the experience of everyday immortality. I'll continue here as well. But also, just remember that we are on a journey together of self-care and ultimate healing, not just healing of, this or that problem, one thing at a time. You have to go to the source of all healing. And then with a little training, you do it spontaneously. Like you learn to walk, like you learn to speak, like you learned the English language or whatever other language you speak, like you learned toilet training. You can also learn higher consciousness and then surrender to it and allow healing to occur spontaneously. So it'll be a good reset for all of us. And it won't be about how to kill viruses or go to war. It'll be about how to heal. How to heal. And we can only heal if we address the ecosystem from atom to universe, from molecule to emotion to soul to spirit. Ramanand Dikshit, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita. Always have the right phrase. Always have the right mantra, the right sutra. Yes, we are going to reset the matrix, Junior. That is the only way we can do it. So check out and register. Thank you very much. I'll see you every day as I see you here.